hello, welcome to Bring on the Sabbath. And you're probably wondering what we're doing here. Because the Sabbath, you usually bring on the Sabbath Friday night, and the Sabbath's already here. So this might be like brought on the Sabbath program. But and normally some of you may be tuning in wondering, where's the Tyler webcast? Well, we'll explain that as we go. But we're doing a special edition of Bring on the Sabbath. We're live here from the Winter Family Weekend in Lexington, Kentucky. And joining me is Adrian Davis.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, and Lisa McComb.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of guests lined up today. We're gonna talk with Jim O'Brien and Carmen Kincaid about what's going on here. We have Adrian Davis has a little something prepared for us as well. Kyle Wilkes will be from Infuse. Will let us know what's going on with Infuse today. And making mats. We will have a teen discussion. I don't know how that's going to go, but we're going to have a teen discussion, and it's going to be led by her daughter. Yes, it's going to be fun. And Michael Deering is going to be here talking about his missionary work in India. Even though I want to talk to him about Star Wars, I'm not going to talk to him about Star Wars. I did that yesterday. We're going to talk to him about the mission work in India. So it's good to be here. Good to be here.
Very good.
Likewise. Yep.
Well, I'm so excited because this whole Winter Family Weekend is just full of activities. But today, we'd like you to go ahead and stay with us and join us later on. We're going to be webcasting services, live services at 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. our time here in Eastern. And we're going to have Adrian Davis speaking. What are you going to be speaking on, Adrian?
I've actually been invited by Jim O'Brien to speak on a sermon that I did in Ohio called The Search for Patient Zero. And it's really all about the Christian family and the importance of the Christian family in a world gone mad.
Awesome.
So stay tuned, 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central.
That sounds very interesting. I can't wait.
Well, Jim thought it was interesting, so I'm here.
Yeah, I've heard the message, and I'm sure it's going to be an expanded, better version.
Hopefully.
From the last one, which was great. Which was a great message. Search for Patient Zero. Also, next, we're always trying experimental things on Bring on the Sabbath, and it won't really be a Bring on the Sabbath, but we're going to try to broadcast our barn dance next Saturday, December 30th, from 6 to 9 p.m. Now, I don't know for sure, but I will let people know if we are able to broadcast that barn dance. That's hosted by Morris Foster, and that's in the East Texas area. And it will probably be a lot of people dancing and maybe interview some people there. And it will be a fun event as well.
There'll be square dancing.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. And we'll be back January 5th on our regular time, Friday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we also have Bible studies that we have. Our Bill Watson's Bible study won't begin until sometime in January, his next one. And he just finished Romans this past week. But Adrian has a pretty amazing Bible study. But I guess this last one you did like part 3.
That's right.
Of his All I Got of the Bible. And that's very, very
Yeah, so that was a debate that we did with Muslim apologists, I think 2 weeks ago. And then last week, I just did a follow-up, sort of answer some unanswered questions. But next week, we will get back to our regular study of the book of Revelation. So hopefully we'll get some more people joining us for a line-by-line study of the book of Revelation.
Very good, very good.
Awesome. Well, and then, of course, next year, we've been talking about this for a couple of bots now, but we're going to be hosting in Tyler the new Church Lady Women's Conference, and that'll be Saturday and Sunday, April 20th and 21st. We'll have it at the Church of God International building at 3900 Thames Street in Tyler. And for more information, you can go to newchurchlady.org for a schedule and more details. And I finally finished part of my job for the conference, and that is getting a list of hotels and rates and everything together, phone numbers, addresses, amenities. And I sent that over to Nancy. I think she's going to be posting it very soon. So you'll be able to start registering for your hotels and getting the good rates that we were able to get. And our conference is sponsored by CGI, of course, Church of God International, Christian Educational Ministries, and also Dynamic Christian Ministries. So everyone, ladies, teens, young girls even, we would love to have anyone that would like to come. And we will also be doing a live webcast of that during the women's conference. We'll be live webcasting. So if you're not able to get to Tyler, go ahead and tune in on all of our stations and watch the women's conference and be uplifted. It'll be The Weightier Matters is what it's called. The the topics are about, the weightier matters. So just come on and visit us wherever you can.
Yeah, and it's gonna be fun to actually webcast that for the first time. For
Yeah,
people
I
to
can't
see what's
wait.
going on at a women's
I'm
conference.
excited.
Even if you're a guy, you might want to tune in. And
You're doing a lot with this webcasting.
this webcasting thing is fun. I've actually found that more people watch a live webcast than a recorded, so
Wow.
Oh, I know.
we'll milk it for all we can. And some people were watching on our website, and they were asking about the sound. There is actually a sound bar on the player on the website. To the it'd be like if you're watching right here, it'd be like over here, and you can push it up to raise your volume if you're having trouble hearing. And also we're broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook. That may help you as well if you have any problems. And also I've added an additional website that's on our main page. It's armorgod.info. You can watch, and you can also chat there as well. And that's for anybody who has any problems with their security. You can go there, and that if you have any kind of things with some of these programs like McAfee, sometimes they may interfere with webcasting.
Right.
I think that's set up to not interfere so much with the webcasting on there.
Mm-hmm.
So if it does, let me know how that works as well. So we got you covered.
Oh, and also, if you guys are hearing some interesting and fun sounds in the background here, we have a band that's practicing right next door to us. So I'm starting to hear the band really kind of pick up a little bit.
I have to say, this is quite a big deal. This is my first time to this family winter weekend.
Really?
And it's a big deal. It's almost like a
It-
mini feast.
It is.
I really
and
have
that's
to
exactly what we said.
I have to congratulate Jim O'Brien for his work here and bringing all these different churches of God together.
Oh,
And there's just a
no.
great sense of unity of spirit here. You don't get a sense of organization meaning anything. The primary focus is the people of God, the families of God coming together and celebrating together. So hats off to Jim O'Brien for this great work that he's doing here with the people of God.
Oh no!
Oh, yes.
Everyone who's involved, it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have come. This is our second year to come, and we will never be upset about driving the 800 miles that we have to drive to get here. It is just worth every mile.
Yeah.
We have just been blessed so much by this activity for our kids and for ourselves too.
It's great.
Just the fellowship. And Jeff, is this your second one also?
This is my third time being
Oh,
here.
your third. Oh,
time,
yeah,
yes.
that's right.
And first time doing this here, so
Yeah.
this way. We actually did it before in the main and used all their equipment.
Oh,
Now
okay.
we brought our equipment from Tyler to broadcast this, and hopefully people are getting a good signal.
Yeah.
It looks
Yeah,
like
I
it's
hope
pretty good
so.
on what I'm watching here. I turned it up, but then it would
Gotta
cause some
say,
feedback.
your equipment gets around.
Yes, and we actually used the same equipment
That's
in
amazing.
Toronto
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the debate, which was interesting. But I told our board, I said, if I can get this equipment, we're going to make good use of it.
Very good. You're definitely doing that. Yeah.
And so we are
Okay.
making good use of it. So I see we have some people have joined us on Facebook here,
Oh,
and
good.
we got some people
Yeah,
online
Who
there.
do we have there?
Let's see. Well, I had them on here.
I've got quite a few on our CGI.org webcast too.
All right, tell me what you got there.
Well, we've got William and we have Carl and Margie's also on there, and everyone's saying Happy Sabbath. Hello to Jeff, and I wasn't on yet, so they said hi to Wesley too. He's here with us too. Jeff Wesley's here and Bob's here. He's helping us manage time.
I see Mimi saying she's
our-
having a hard time hearing me. I don't know
Oh,
if I need to move my
no.
mic up or something.
Oh no.
And maybe
No?
your
Okay.
No.
your
it may
Canadian
have
accent, I
been
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's Canadian, so maybe that's not
yeah,
it.
I gotta
Mimi-
spend more time here in Kentucky.
Mimi is here, and
Great.
Lena too is also here. And let's see, we also have Grover Ray, and we have I already said Margie, but there's and Faye B is here. Hi Faye.
Faye Brown?
from back home. Yes.
All right.
Hi,
Hey, Faye.
And Marilyn is here. Someone said Marilyn from. I can't remember the comment I read now.
All right. Well, I got Tommy from Atlanta on YouTube. The One Hope for Heaven's on here again. Says glad to see Adrian. Really enjoys your YouTube post, Adrian.
Great, thank you.
Angel Zap. I don't know what they're talking about. The Angel Zap's on there, and these YouTube names are a little unusual at times for things. And Sylvia Blevins is watching as well from West Virginia, and I think we've got that covered. And I think my parents are watching
Oh,
as well. They always watch.
hi, Mr.
Right.
and Mrs.
Hello.
Always say hello
Always
to my
on.
parents. Amy Hohertz says she can hear us loud and clear.
Great.
Oh, great.
Murray Palmetier,
Oh,
your
wow.
buddy.
Great. Hello, Murray.
Sherry Jo Mafferty Welch is watching back home. Her husband will be on here later to share some great things. So we thank you all for joining. I think we're going to.
I missed a couple.
Okay, go
I missed
ahead.
a couple. I have Joy. Also, Grover Billy is on here, and then
Great.
I noticed someone new that I haven't seen before. Frank NJ. I'm not sure if he's from New Jersey. And then there's RJ179. But you know what else is so neat about this, Jeff? Is that a few of the people that watch us online are actually in the audience here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We actually have a couple of people who watch online normally. They're in the audience, and that is so cool to be able to come together and meet those people.
Very cool.
Very good.
neat.
All right, well, what we're going to do is we're going to take I always say short break, but this is going to be a medium break.
Medium
because
break.
We're going to show a video that Wesley put together about the Winter Family Weekend that was filmed last year, kind of get you an idea of what it's all about. And after we show that video, we'll come back and we'll be joined with a couple of special guests. So we'll be right back.
Great.
All right, we're back, and I'm joined with Carmen Kincaid.
Hi.
Nice to have you here, and
Thanks
Jim
for having
O'Brien.
me.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. We are at the Winter Family Weekend. If you just tuned in, glad to have everybody join us out there on the internet watching. I've wrangled these two up here because I think they're the ones that are responsible for a lot of what's going on here today.
Yeah, Carmen's doing the hard work now, but it has been a really a work of love for a long, long time. And
Yeah, I
this
noticed on the brochure it says the 21st annual.
It's the 21st annual. Can you believe that? I mean, it's time passes fast when you're having fun, but it has been 21. This is the 21st year. Actually, we began a few years prior to that back in Amarillo, Texas. There was a friend of mine, Jeff Booth, who really started the winter tournament, I don't know, a long time ago, back in the late 70s, and I picked it up, when I inherited that congregation, and we continued. Then it dropped off for a few years, and so a few years later we had a difference of environment, church environment that we were in, and so we said we need to get together as people as we had scattered. We needed an opportunity to bring people back together, to get away from politics, to get away from our, sometimes petty differences and sort of unique observances, and have some common faith, something that we could do together, and we could see friends and fellowship together in a spirit of love. And that's how we got started again.
Wow. And how many people do we expect to be here this year?
We'll have about 700 here this year.
That's a lot of people.
It's a bunch of people.
Yeah.
They eat a lot. I tell you, they drink a lot of Starbucks, and so I didn't even have to change cups. I just picked up Lisa's cup and just drink around the lipsticks on the cup.
Yeah, Carmen, what kind of activities do we normally have here?
Well, we start on Friday night with, this Friday night we had a special speaker, a guest speaker, speaking about Islam. While that was occurring, we have children's classes for all the various ages. And then we had a praise and worship service following that. Excuse me. And then today we've had...
Your voice is, you lose your voice. You have to talk so much.
Yeah, well, yeah. Throughout the weekend, we have about 25 different seminars on a huge variety of topics by a huge variety of speakers from across the Church of God spectrum. Today we'll have a worship service. This evening we'll have what we call Family Fun Night, which is inflatables and bingo and a kids carnival and a free pizza dinner and karaoke and just about anything you could ask for there. And then on Sunday and Monday we have all kinds of sports and crafts and games and a family dance, and there's a lot going on.
that is definitely a lot. So, and where are we at here? What's the name of this hotel?
This is the Griffin Gate Marriott.
The Griffin Gate Marriott. So if you're like in this area watching, and you're going, I wonder what's going on there, you can come by here.
Come on by.
Come on to the Griffin Gate Marriott. If you live in this area, you probably know where it's at.
Yeah, the Griffin Gate is actually a 4-star Marriott, and the way we got it honestly was miraculous. The room nights here run normally about $179 a night.
I saw on my door, I know this is always wrong, it's like it said 700 on the door. That's like the maximum they can charge, I guess, yeah.
Actually, when the horses are running and people are going out to Keeneland and various race courses, these rooms will run $700 a night. And here we are at $62 a night. So they understand a lot about, well, how cheap I am, I think. Anyway, but it has been a blessing. One of the nice things about the Winter Family Weekend is that there's so many people staying together under one roof. And so you walk out the room and you're down the hall and there's a friend of yours, or you go down to have a cup of coffee and there's some other friends. It's easy to make contact with people. It's you don't make the environment. The environment is there. We had to be given this environment. For example, we don't walk out the door and go outside. It's winter, and so it's nice to walk inside a hallway and down to an area where there are other people, other friends to meet. So this is a ready-made environment for the people of God to fellowship together.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's just amazing to see people you haven't seen for years.
Yeah.
When you come here and this stuff. From how many different churches you would imagine would be here?
Oh boy.
Fellowship together.
Well, are you including the Baptists that sometimes don't?
Yeah, maybe a few Baptists we may have here.
There actually are. In fact, they will say, oddly enough, you think, well, this is Christmas, they're going to be keeping Christmas, and they will say, I would rather be there with this group of Sabbatarians that don't keep Christmas, and this is a lot more fun than what we would do normally. So what can we say? Come on in, join us, see how we worship, worship with us. It's a good thing.
So what does it take to organize this? Maybe that's Carmen.
Well, look, you can see Carmen is sick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what it takes.
So your voice, you're losing your voice, is it from talking so much?
No,
or
I
just
started
kinda
getting sick
All right.
a couple days ago, but yeah.
The truth is, Carmen misses sleep. So Carmen's one of these people who rises at 5:30 in the morning and sometimes doesn't get to bed until midnight. And so as it comes up to the Winter Family Weekend, and a lot of the organizational responsibilities. You know, I'm more of a free spirit. Let things flow. Carmen said, I don't want to know what's going to happen next, you know. So she works very hard.
Yeah, I want to thank Carmen for making this available for us, this room, and getting it organized so that we can do this. And she was the most helpful person ever. If you ever want to be a part of this or present something, she does a tremendous job. When do you start planning for this?
Next week.
Next week.
We'll start getting all the contracts in place next week for the next year, and then we take a little bit of a break for a brief amount of time. But usually, in earnest, we start around June or July again, recruiting speakers and brainstorming new activities and ideas, and we try to get a lot of it in place before the feast, and then wrap up things after the feast.
Okay. What's the most interesting story you have over these years that you can tell that's happened here? Because I know you probably have some.
Wow, that's a good question.
Oh boy.
As far as organizing or difficulties or things that you had to pull out at the last minute to make it all work?
Well, for the last 3 years, the Marriott has been doing renovations at various parts of the hotel. And for the last 3 years, they have said that they're going to renovate the ballroom and the farm suites, which is where we have the main services and all the seminars. And so, you know, previous years, they would renovate the sleeping rooms and we could work around that, or they would renovate the restaurant, we could work around that. But when they hit renovating the ballroom and the farm suites, that's kind of a deal breaker because that's where we are. And last year, but for the last 3 years again, it has always come to where, oh, well, we're going to push that off and we're not going to, you guys can still come. Last year, we were just ready. We were this close. I mean, like,
Yeah, we were talking on the phone about we've got to go.
We had contracts.
We're going to call the other hotel and contract with them.
We had already called and we already had all the paperwork with them and we hadn't signed yet. We actually, I work at his office one day a week and we were just getting ready to sign the paperwork and we thought we're going to pray about this one more time, and then we went and had some lunch and came back and both of us had voicemails on our phone saying, don't do it. I don't know what you guys are doing, but your prayers are working. So
now that's the truth.
Yeah.
When we talk to the people here at the Marriott in the sales office, they will say, your prayers, and that's exactly the way they talk. They recognize a relationship to God, that you pray and there's intervention in your life in this event, and it affects their lives.
Yeah, because they never push off renovation like that. So that's been a real blessing. You know, eventually they're going to do it.
There's a lot of prayer that goes into this.
A lot of prayer.
Weekend.
Yes.
This is absolutely a blessing. This is not something human beings could create. When we started this back when I was doing it in the 80s, the fact that you would call it a seminar was objectionable.
Really?
Now, you don't think of that today. This is 2017. You're thinking about 1982. And to say that you're having a seminar and to have a fellow minister call headquarters and say, hey, look, this stuff that's happening is not very good. and I'd have to have discussions with ministerial services. And then finally they said, well, don't call them seminars, just call them Bible studies. Why do you have to have people split up? Well, why can't you just have this Bible study with everybody in one big room? And we would say, well, you got things for the kids, got Sabbath schools, you got people who are, we'll have things on young married couples, there are things for senior citizens, things for health. They're all different types of things, and the key is we need to serve the people. People do not come here to serve this tournament. The event serves people who are arriving. And some people need to have things on health, some people need to have things on prophecy, some people need to have something that's dealing with family matters. So this year, we have, 30 different seminars?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, like I went to 3 seminars this morning, you can't go to all of them at the same time. Obviously, you got 4 at one time. You're forced to choose. And the key to this is the best of the best. So we'll find, here's a speaker such as Adrian Davis. I listened to this sermon, I'm saying, this is a fantastic sermon. We need to talk to Adrian and see if we can get him here. How do we do that? Well, so we just, this sense of removing borders, and the Church of God can put the best of the best, because there's a lot of creative things that the Holy Spirit leads people to do and to succeed at.
Yeah, I got a question here. Actually, but first I want to mention there's a guy named Francia who said he's watching in Qatar. So that, and he says first time watching, so that's across the world.
Wow.
We do have people who watch
Really?
around the world. Well, I'll show you the map later of people
cool.
who tune in. But we have Stacy McIntosh. She asked the question, how does it work with all the different churches of God there? How does it get coordinated? Who speaks? I guess you were answering that right there. I think it's great. I don't understand if it can all be unified for this event. Why not afterwards? I said, well, that's a good comment.
Eventually, afterward, we are all going to be unified. aren't we?
Yes, yeah. Well, I think we're unified here, and I think we're always unified throughout the year, and this is probably a reflection of that.
Well, there are several key things in unity. One of them is that we have to be committed to God, to His Spirit leading and directing us. That's number one. Everybody cannot have his own way. I cannot have my own way all the time. I have to have some direction, but there are times where somebody else will say, we really can't do that, or we'll pray about it, or things just don't work out that way. It has to be a commitment to doing what is best, not necessarily what I want.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, do you have any closing thoughts you want to put in before we go to a break?
It's good to have you here. I'm glad to see you, Jeff. And
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. I missed it last year. Had a little problem. We were supposed to do Bring on the Sabbath last year, but we're here this year.
It's
and
winter.
Excited to
and
be
it's,
here.
It's a tough time of the year to be here, and I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
You've made a great contribution.
Yeah. So thank everybody out there. And if you can, start planning yourself to join us next year, because I'm sure we would all love to have you here.
We would.
All right. Well, we're going to take another break, and when we get back, we're going to have Adrian Davis has a Bible study or presentation. I don't know what it is. I didn't ask him. We'll figure out what it is here in a minute. So Adrian's going to present something for us. So hang in there. We'll be back after this short break.
Millions of us have grown up with fond memories of Christmas trees, bulging stockings, gaily wrapped gifts, jolly old Saint Nick, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Yule logs, turkey, goose dinners, mistletoe, and Bing Crosby singing I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas. It's a major Christian holiday, a barometer for business, the most important commercial season of the year in the Western world. Yet, for all its importance to millions, most remain completely ignorant of its true origins. Where did we get Christmas? What about mistletoe and Santa Claus? You will be astounded to read the truth about Christmas. Facts you should know about Christmas. Go to cgi.org and get facts you should know about Christmas.
What I want to do in the time that I have, this is going to be a very short Bible study. I have about 15 minutes. And what I thought I would do is go over Ephesians 4 and 5, just a passage there between 4 and 5. I'm going to be spending time in the sermon today on Ephesians 5, really the marriage passages. And I thought what I'd do today is just cover the text that leads into the marriage passages. But also it's very interesting that beginning in Ephesians 4, there's some coverage there about the unity of the church. And just coming on the heels of what Jim O'Brien is doing here at the Family Winter Weekend, it really is all about unity, so there's a tie-in there. And also just recently coming off the debates that we were doing about is Allah the God of the Bible, and the last one particularly, does God permit lying? There's a lot in here about deception and lying, and that's really the core of the message today. Is, you know, most of us are aware that the world is deceived. And when we think of that, we think of it doctrinally. We think, you know, am I deceived? No, I know the true doctrines. So I want to introduce this notion of two levels of deception. level 1 deception is doctrinal. So are we deceived doctrinally? I would say most of us would say no. We know the fundamental doctrines. But I think the second level of deception is behavioral deception. That we can know the true doctrines, but be deceived behaviorally. We can be engaging in behaviors that will exclude us from the kingdom of God. And that's the message I want to cover today. So if we begin in Ephesians 4, and just at the very top here in Ephesians 4, verse 3, again, talking about this family winter weekend where people from multiple organizations are coming together, and the organization doesn't matter. It's the unity of the Spirit of God. And he says here in Ephesians 4, verse 3, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. And Jim was saying here, we don't create this environment. The people of God come together, and it just is.
Yeah.
It's there. It's the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, even as you are called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all. And then he goes on to talk about the ministry working to perfect the saints, to edify the saints, so that the body can be fit for ministry. But I want to begin now in verse 13, that this work goes on until we all come in the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure and stature of the fullness of Christ. Verse 14, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. So I want to introduce this as level 1 deception, and that with the work of the ministry and the proper teaching, we can avoid this level of doctrinal deception. Rather, speaking the truth in love, so we don't lie, our God does not lie, we speak the truth in love, that we can grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ. And from the head, from whom the whole body fitly joined together, and that's again what I'm seeing here at this weekend, the body fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplies. So we're a joint. We're a joint. Every time one member in the body connects with another member, that's a joint, and the joint supplies something. When the different churches of God come together, this is a joint, and the joint supplies something, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part. So there needs to be effectual working in every part, so that when the parts come together and create a joint, we can contribute to the body in the spirit of unity, which makes increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. So we are building the body of Christ by this work that the Spirit is doing through each part and through each joint as we come together. This I say therefore, and testify in the Lord, that you henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk in the vanity of their mind. So now he's getting into behavior. So because of all of this edification that's taking place, we mustn't walk like the Gentiles, the other Gentiles, having their understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God through the ignorance that is in them because of the blindness of their heart. And certainly as we engage in this debate and you hear Muslims justifying deceit and deception and lying, this is what it's talking about here, being darkened and the ignorance that's in them and because of the blindness in their heart. And we're not saying Muslims, we're just talking about the doctrine of Islam. It's a dark doctrine. Who being past feeling have given themselves over to lasciviousness, and again this doctrine allows them to engage in this, to work all uncleanness with greediness. But you have not so learned Christ, if so be that you have heard him and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Jesus. Now he says in verse 22, that you put off concerning the former conduct the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust. So now we're seeing level 2 deception. Level 1 deception is doctrine. Level 2 deception is our behavior. And so bad doctrine leads to bad behavior. Good doctrine should lead to good behavior, but not necessarily. It should. We can have good doctrine and bad behavior. And so Paul is appealing now to the Ephesians and to us by extension. It's not enough to have good doctrine. It's not enough to be, to resist being blown about by every wind of doctrine. Now that we have right doctrine, we've got to make sure we avoid the second level of deception, which is our behavior. That if Satan can take us out, he'll take us out. So here he says, to be renewed in verse 23, in the spirit of your mind, that you put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. Therefore, put away lying. So we don't lie to one another. There's no instruction in the Bible that it's okay for me to lie to you or for you to lie to me. We'd speak the truth.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting in the debate how the Muslim doctrine could justify lying, and it's just like, and just be like,
And it's
no-
just,
no
it's,
problem
it's
with
just
it.
a white lie,
Yeah,
and it's
no,
just to my
it's a white lie.
spouse. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So we put away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. So if I'm going to lie to you, it means I'm going to lie to myself. I'm going to just live in deception. So we're members of one another. We must not lie to one another. Now, avoiding this second level of deception. Verse 26, be you angry, but don't sin. Do not let the sun go down upon your wrath. So if you upset me, and I'm angry with you, Lisa, and the sun goes down on my wrath, and I wake up the next morning and I'm still angry with you, I have given Satan a foothold. And I have been deceived. I have the right doctrines, but I've been deceived behaviorally. And so this is what he's saying to avoid this. So we're here, be angry and don't sin, don't let the sun go down on your wrath, neither give place to the devil. So if I'm holding a grudge against you, I become a portal for the devil to get into the body of Christ. So we mustn't give any position, any place, any access to the devil. So I could be harboring the devil's intentions by keeping this anger and this wrath alive in me. Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor with his hands the thing which is good, that he may give to him that needs. So instead of lying, we speak the truth. Instead of stealing, we give. We work hard and give. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth. So nothing that's injurious, nothing that is discrediting to members of the body, none of this comes out of our mouth. This again is, I could know the true doctrines, but I'm speaking poorly of my brothers and sisters. This is second level deception. Rather, that which is good to the use of edifying. It's all about building up the body, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of God, whereby you are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking, so all of this second level deception, all of this behavior, it should not be in the body. Put it away from you with all malice. Instead, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of God as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ has also loved us, and he's given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God, a sweet-smelling savor. But porneia, so this is really important, any sort of sexuality that is outside of marriage is porneia. And it is a form of devil worship, because sex in marriage honors God, it glorifies God. Sexuality outside of marriage glorifies the devil. So any porneia and all uncleanness and covetousness, let it not be once named among you, as becometh saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, and any comedy today. It's very hard to find comedy that's clean. There's some intelligent comedians out there, they don't have to go to the gutter to make you laugh. But 99% of them, they go straight to the gutter.
I've seen comedians who used to be clean,
And
and
now?
they came out with a Netflix special. I said, what happened?
Wow. So
they
you
were-
think, oh, this
yeah.
comedian's good, I'll watch this.
Yeah, but then he went to the gutter.
And this, but this happens in the church as well.
Yeah.
A man might be talking to a lady and he kind of introduces a little bit of risque humor to sort of test the water. This must not be.
Yeah.
This is a form of devil worship. And it cannot be. So this is second level deception. It cannot be in the church of God. So he says this is not appropriate, rather giving of thanks. So the opposite. We don't lie, we speak the truth. We don't steal, we give. We don't engage in filthy talk, we give thanks. For this you know, this is what we know. So this is avoiding second level deception. For this you know, no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater. He tells you, right, this is idolatry. This is a form of devil worship, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. So do not be deceived. I might know true doctrine, but I'm engaged in porneia. I'm engaged in filthy talk. I'm a whoremonger. I'm unclean. I covet. This is deception, that I have the true doctrine. I'm teaching true doctrine, but I'm deceived behaviorally. Second level deception.
And actually, if a lot of people say, well, I got the true doctrine and I believe in the Sabbath, I keep the holy days. But if you're doing those type of things, you're wasting your time.
Exactly. We're not
time.
going to be in the kingdom of God. And he says it
Yeah.
right here. Verse 6, let no man deceive you with vain words. For because of these things comes the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. So we can be in the church and the wrath is coming on the children of disobedience, but if we're engaged in it, the wrath is coming on us as well, even though I have true doctrine.
I love that verse where it says vain words, because
Yes.
I was just thinking, it really points to the love of self instead of the love of others.
And
it's just
now you're getting to
vanity.
this is the core of it, right? Do we accept Christ and have love for others?
Yes.
Or is Satan still operating in us and it's all about self?
Exactly.
Yeah. So he says, be not you therefore partakers with them. Separate yourself. For we were sometimes darkness. We were. This is where we came from. But now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. So this is, our behavior must be clean. We cannot have any fellowship with this unfruitful work, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. And you would think this is talking out in the world, but it's in the church. There are things happening in secret in the church that it's a shame. But all things that are reproved are made obvious by the light. For whatever does make manifest is light. So we should be exposing this kind of thing so that there's repentance. Therefore he says, awake you that sleep and arise from the dead. So this is targeted to the church. If you're being deceived, if you're engaging in this kind of behavior, you are asleep. Awake you that sleeps and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give you light. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Therefore do not be unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. Do not be drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit, speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord, giving thanks always for all things unto God and the Father, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. So this is really all about avoiding second level deception, and this is behavior. Yet we've got the doctrine, but we cannot be engaged in the behavior of devils and think that we're getting into the kingdom of God. So that's a very quick 15-minute Bible study. I'm going to now focus on the rest of the passage in the sermon today, which is really the marriage chapter and talking about the family of God. But I thought this would be a good introduction.
That's the most precise 15-minute Bible study I've ever seen.
Actually, you know what? It was just the Bible, right? So it was
Yeah,
more
right
just.
there.
So that was a
precise.
study brought to you by the Apostle Paul.
This has been amazing because did you hear Kellen last night?
I did not know.
Oh, that was an amazing message that he gave. He just
When was
did.
that? Because I had,
It
we had
was
the.
in the middle of the praise and worship.
Okay, so I was here.
So
in
for
the-
those
Yeah.
watching,
I was in the
we
Q&A.
had a praise and worship message last night, and that's what
Yes.
you're referring to.
Yes. Were you there?
No.
Okay, so what he talked about was what I talked about on Bots a couple of weeks ago about knowing God's will in your life. And he was very specific because he usually focuses on the teens. And he was very specific about relationships, the porneia you were saying, the fornication, and not doing that because it isn't God's will, because God's will is for you to have, a healthy, blessed marriage and
Exactly.
only have that union there.
And to reflect the image of God.
Yes.
We are image bearers. And when we
Yeah.
engage in porneia, we're reflecting the image of the devil.
And we have a society where that's acceptable.
Totally.
And so I would say with the youth or even
Absolutely.
the adults, that they say, oh, well, we can get
Yeah,
away with this,
yeah,
and
exactly.
still try to be
Yeah.
a Sabbath.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not compatible
That's right,
at
exactly
all.
right.
You're
right.
just wasting
No.
your time. So this is a good intro to the sermon today. So those watching,
Yeah.
And everything's just flowing.
we're gonna broadcast the message today. It'll be 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And if you're watching, just tune in. You're wondering what's going on. We are broadcasting live from the Winter Family Weekend in Lexington, Kentucky. And normally from Tyler, Texas, we are actually recording that service for you, and we'll have that on the web a little bit later this week. But thank you for sticking in there with us. If you're like wondering, what is this?
Yeah.
This
You
is
are
not
watching
our
Bring
your
on the
normal,
Sabbath.
Your normal broadcast. This is our Bring on the Sabbath that we normally have at 7 o'clock. So we are going to take a break. And in this break, we're going to watch a video about making mats.
Yes.
And you're wondering, what is making mats? Well, you will
We're gonna
know
find
after the
out.
video. And we will have Kyle Wilkes will be with us to discuss the Making Mats project. So we'll take a medium break and be back in just a few minutes.
3.5 minutes, somewhere in there.
I'm Sherry Wilkes, and I am with Infuse, which is the young adult group from the Church of God International. And our project is making mats. We actually make plastic mats for the homeless out of grocery bags, trash bags, and pretty much any type of plastic. We've used toilet paper bags, we've used bread bags, newspaper bags even, produce bags, and we cut them up into strips, tie them together, and then crochet them into mats for the homeless. These mats actually go to homeless veterans, people sleeping on the streets, and families in inadequate housing where you don't have the right heat or the air, windows boarded up, anything that it's not the traditional warm or cool home. We use about 450 bags, and we've done 16 mats so far. With those 16 mats, there's an estimated 7,200 bags that have been taken out of the landfills. We've got people that are collecting bags, keeping them in their pantries, underneath their cabinets, and then they just get up with us every so often and donate them. When we get the bags, we have what's called plarning parties. Plarning is plastic yarn. And we sit around and we fold the bags, we cut them, we tie them together, and sometimes we even have people crocheting there. We've done pizza, popcorn, and plarn. We've done potluck and plarn. And we've just had the basic, just coming together, a few of us, and then we'll just start, making the plarn or crocheting. There's an estimated 1.5 million homeless people. And the fact that there are that many homeless in the United States says a lot about the United States as a whole. We, in the world of technology, we're so focused on our phones, we're so focused on what's going on in our life and our daily activities, we don't always stop and think about others. And with this project, this is something we can do that's of little to no cost. You can buy a ruler, you can buy scissors, and a crochet hook. $5, $6 max is what you're spending. And you can be helping a ton of people. There's actually a church here in Atlanta that has a homeless shelter, and what they're talking about doing is when they get the completed mats, they'll pass them out to people, and as people come in with the mats, if they're going to stay the night in the warming shelter, then they're going to hang the mats up on a hook, and people who need them the next morning can take them with them. This is something that can be reused. It's not going to break down anytime soon. It's water resistant, it's bed bug proof, it's mold proof, it's really easy to clean. You just shake it off. You can roll the mat up, throw it with the tie, and put it over your shoulder, and you can go on to wherever you're going for the day.
Welcome back, everyone, and what an inspirational service project. I love watching that video and just listening to Sherry. And today I'm happy to introduce Kyle Wilkes. He's here with us. Thanks for spending some time with us here at our special Winter Family Weekend
Welcome,
edition
Kyle.
of Bring on the
Thank
Sabbath.
I'm good to be here.
Where are you here from?
We live in Lancaster, South Carolina right now.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay, so about how far away is that from here?
from here, 7-hour drive.
7 hours? Okay, that's good. That's a good amount. Okay. Now, what is the name of your service project?
The project, the Infuse, is it kind of simple name, the Making Mats project. It's
Making
typically what we
Okay.
refer to it, just making mats most often.
And before we get to that, I would let the people out there know what Infuse is.
But-
Then maybe you can
Yeah.
So
maybe
okay,
what
yeah.
That's a
it
great
is.
idea.
Infuse is the young adult program for CGI. We've had it for a long time, and the past couple of years we've really revamped, trying to make sure that it's got a real clear defined mission statement. Because it's been kind of nebulous and morphic for a while, so we're really nailing it down. The young adult program really targeting the 18 to 30 demographic. It's a wide berth, but there's a lot of people in that in their own time are coming into living and worshiping God while still living in the world on their own, away from family or their normal support groups. On top of that, also integrating the Infuse, encouraging them to support the teen program Ignite that they've just recently started up in the past couple of years, as well as the Sparks program, the younger adults, like just handing down that to at the end of the day, infuse the generations so that it's one living body as the generations continue to move up.
That's awesome.
And Ignite.
And Ignite, yes.
Ignite.
Ignite and then Sparks. Yep.
Ignite Sparks, all right, yeah.
Well, I am very intrigued about your Making Mats project,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm excited about it. I mean, I think it's such a blessing to God's children. I mean, all the people of the world that you're serving. How did this get started?
This got started every summer. Infuse does a retreat, a weekend retreat on a theme we pick every year, and we always try to have a service project. And this particular year, we had done. We were building sandwiches, just cold cut sandwiches for a shelter for people, for halfway houses, people trying to get work after prison, and. It ended up costing us a lot more than we anticipated because several of the donors, businesses or independent otherwise, pulled out, forgot about it, whatever. So we ended up having to spend a lot more money than we intended on it. So the next year, we started doing research. What are some low-cost projects we can work on? And this was intended just to be a one-time thing, was these mats. But at the end of it, everyone had kind of enjoyed themselves. Everyone was, really getting into the project. We had so much material that had still been donated to us that it's become a perennial thing. I think we've been doing this coming up on 3 years now, if not, 4 or 5 now. So.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask that. How long have you been doing it? So 3 years. That's
about 3 years.
excellent.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, did you find a video that showed how to make these, or did you?
We did
create this,
doing
or?
some research. Sherry, my wife, who couldn't be here. She's the hero of this project, really. A lot of praise goes to her, not just, to God ultimately, but she gets a lot of this done. She found this project. She already knew how to crochet. So her not being there this week, and a lot of people ask crochet questions, and I'm giving them blank stares, so I have to apologize for that.
Well, I'm going to tell a little bit about that because I was a homemaker and I know how to crochet and knit, but it's interesting how they do this. They cut these I call them Walmart bags because, they're just bags that you get from your local grocery store or Walmart. And they cut these bags into strips, and they're long, round pieces so that you can just intertwine them together. And then they make a long rope type thing that you can actually crochet with a large crochet needle for those ladies out there that know what I'm talking about. But they crochet these mats. I want to just take it out here. They crochet these mats, and they're large enough for someone to lay on or even cover with.
That's the idea. If they just want to sleep on it, if they want to.
It's just a simple crochet.
Under it.
It's just
very
like
comfortable feel, too.
It looks like a single. It looks like a
It is-
double.
It's a double.
It's a double crochet.
It's a double
pattern.
crochet.
I can see
For
that.
people who want to get involved, a 9 hook. I'm sorry,
Nine.
N hook. N hook,
In.
9 or 10.
That's right. Because as soon as we left here last year, we were actually involved with this project a little bit last year. We came in and we were cutting bags and we're making plarn balls. It's called plarning because they're using plastic and it's yarn, plastic yarn plarn. And we're making these plarn balls to crochet have these ladies crochet later. And I'm so excited because I actually brought you a gift of some bags because we save up some bags too. My mom has actually been doing it too, but these are so innovative to me. I'm just and they're light. Just like she was saying on the film, they're light, easy to carry around, easy care because they don't mold or mildew. And it's just amazing.
The shelters like them as well because they're also because of the plastic. Bed bugs and other mites can't dig in and make a nest in the plastic. So,
Yes.
A lot of projects they'll donate a lot of felt blankets because they're cheap and easy to get a lot of them with donation money. But the thing is one person come off the street, so they have an infestation. They have to throw out anything they touched and potentially a lot of their other stuff as well.
Oh, wow.
But the plastic mats, they can keep using these. The mites don't matter. They can wash it off relatively easily. So
what is your service area for these? Is there a limit?
Not really a limit. We typically try to donate at least a few to a shelter whenever we do a retreat. When we go to the area, we try to have some to donate to them. Some places have just kind of picked up just because we've been doing it. It's hard to say how many people we have helping us with this project, because every so often we'll check the Infuse post office box, and it's just a box of Plarn from, we don't know these people, but they're like, we found your video, we made you a box full of Plarn, here you go, and they ship it off to us. So it's really kind of hard to say how far it's reaching, how many people are out there just making mats because of what videos we've put out there. So.
And to me, just thinking about, Jim O'Brien starting this Winter Family Weekend, because it gets people here. It actually puts people in seats when you do the planning parties and actually educates them on how to get this started in your own community. And so the future for this could be it could go anywhere. What is y'all's future? I mean, what do you see in the future for this, for making mats?
Oh, goodness. Sherry may have plans on it. I apologize. I don't have a better answer for that. Sherry may have better plans for this than
okay.
than I have.
I see a future with the kids coming in at the planning parties and learning, and if we can, educate our youth and get them going and, get them into the service mode and show them, let them get that feeling of service, because, it is a great feeling to have that.
That is part of the reason we, oh, yes, sir.
Your wife, she's watching, and she says
Oh,
over
good.
3,000 people have helped so far. She's running all caps, so I figured I better show you that.
That's
3,000
amazing.
You've had
I'm
over
so glad.
3,000. Okay, wow.
I was going to ask you if she was watching, and I'm so glad to hear that she is.
I was unaware of that number.
Well,
Thank you,
that's,
Sherry.
That's great, Sherry. I'm so glad that you're watching. And I have a gift for you guys. I brought my
Here we go.
I brought my
This is the raw
large
material.
bag.
There we
This is
go.
the raw material that I brought. So, are we doing the parting session this year?
We do. We have we'll have two this evening, Monday and Sunday night. We'll have some learning sessions as well. So
Awesome.
won't be able to cover the crochet for people wanting to learn. Sorry again, but
That's okay.
I haven't gotten down to learning myself. That's
I
on
think
me.
you can learn pretty much any craft or any textile thing online on YouTube. But yeah, we'll definitely be showing them how to cut up the bags and make the Plarn balls.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason we also picked this project is, if you can't crochet, the Plarning itself is relatively simple to it's a little time consuming, but making the Plarn, even if all you have time to do is just keep all your bags and donate them, should we come to Winter Family Week, we typically leave with 4 or 5 more bags full of bags, because people have learned to paddle direct. So it's so that people at any skill level can get into it. We've got some people when the Plarn party gets thrown, they don't really have a desire to do this, but they want to help out. So if nothing else, they're running interference, they're getting drinks and snacks for people. So
It's so simple.
they're helping somehow, yeah.
The only materials you need are the bags and a pair of scissors. That's pretty much it in your hands.
I was able to help out at one point. Go
Jeff.
If I can do it, anybody can do this, because I'm not crafty or
Go, Jeff.
coordinated very well with that type of stuff.
Well, that's awesome.
Anyone can do it.
Well, Kyle, do you have any closing comments?
No, just more encouragement to get involved in the project. This is, it's kind of been implied the whole time, but this is not just in the edifying of serving other people, but the edification of each other. This is just as often as much a fellowship, and it's just good fun. Get some popcorn, get some pizza, and get a lot of scissors. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. On the video.
Paper cutter is a good investment. I will always throw that out there.
Oh.
It just
Yeah, it's fast.
keep moving.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad you joined us here.
Well, thanks for having
being
me.
on Bring On the
Absolutely.
Sabbath.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being here. I guess we have our most experimental part of the day
Yes.
coming up.
Coming up after this commercial break.
After the commercial break, and and y'all hang in here because you're going to be wondering what's going on. We're going to have some teams that are going to come and tell you what it means to them to be a part of this Winter Family Weekend on this wonderful Sabbath day. So hang in there. We'll have a short break, and we'll bring the young ones up here, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Nothing is surer than death and taxes. Millions of people pay taxes every day, and millions of people die every day. We have all lost loved ones through death. Death is a dreaded enemy. Death is not a friend. Many people have great fear when they think about their own deaths and deaths of others who are close to them. What happens when you die? Do you have an immortal soul that either goes up to heaven or down to an ever-burning hell after you die? It's time you learn the answers to these questions. We can help you. We have a booklet called Afraid to Die. You can get it on our website at cgi.org. It's free. Again, That's Afraid to Die at CGI.org.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Jacob Wilson. I'm from Tyler, Texas.
Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I'm also from Tyler, and we have a special guest with us.
I'm also Rebecca, and I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
All right. And I'm 18. You are 17 still?
17.
These two only for a little while longer. Yeah, so we're teenagers. This is my 3rd year, I want to say, going here. I think you've been going here a lot longer.
I've been going here pretty much my whole life, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently I've been here 4 years. I'm getting notifications from my parents. But yeah, so this is just such a fun experience. It's something I personally look forward to every single year. I think just the timing of it's fun because whenever you go to school, you have all your friends who keep Christmas. And so it's always like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing for Christmas? And for a really long time, I was just like, nothing. Very boring answer. So this is just a great place for all of us in the church to get together and have something to do during the holiday season when everybody else is with their families.
Very true. Going off of that, I also go to a public school, and Christmas is such a huge deal at school, but it's so nice to have been able to say, oh, I'm going to Lexington, and then they'd say, what are you doing in Lexington? And I get to talk about the Winter Family Weekend, and I've had many people actually say that they're interested in coming, but then they don't want to give up their Christmas traditions just yet, but I'm still working on them. I think I can get them.
That's good. Yeah, this is only my 2nd year here, but there are so many activities for every age to do, and it's always fun. And we're able to interact all the time, and it's just really a great experience.
Yeah, during the Sabbath, everybody stays within the hotel normally. So there are sermons that go on, and we have a huge...
Seminars, yeah.
Yes, sorry, seminars, yeah. Seminars, sermons later. We have church service later with some praise and worship,
and then,
that's always fun.
What do we have tonight? I forget.
So what's tonight? Just
family
night, family fun night, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just a lot of fun games. I think they serve pizza, so that's always fun.
Yes, and then tomorrow we're starting the KBA.
Yeah, tomorrow the Kentucky Basketball Association is a building that we rent out while we're here. And there's organized volleyball, basketball, dodgeball.
There's a little area for smaller kids to play as well. And then there's some people in the kitchen making food while we're there. And
you buy lunch there, snacks there.
Yes.
I think there's an upstairs area. I think it's for you can play games up there.
Lots of crafts.
Yeah.
So that's always fun.
Another really cool part is in the days, we go, I can't remember what the name of the building is, but we can go over there and there's an opportunity to roller skate or laser tag, play mini golf. And it's just a really cool, I don't get to do those things a lot back home. So it's really cool to be able to do that, especially with so many close friends.
Yeah, and then you're normally at the Kentucky Basketball Association from morning till mid-afternoon, and everybody again ends up back at the building, and we're here playing games, hanging out, listening to music.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Rebecca, what do you think? Why do you come back here every year?
I think the main reason that I come back here every year is I have so many memories at this place, and that's where I've met my best friends, and I get to hang out with them, and I never get to see them ever. So it's just so nice just to be able to have those connections in the church with friendships. And it's just so nice to just come back and just be with those people and share experiences, catch up on life. I love it. It's amazing. And there's just, everyone here is so great and nice, and a friend is always just a step away.
I my reasons for coming back are much the same. Even though I haven't been here quite as long as you have, you still, even after the first year, you get those memories, you meet those friends. And going off of what she said, it's like when you have smaller congregations, especially back where I'm from, I have like 1 or 2 other people that are my age.
Right.
And usually if you have those people that are your age, at least one of them's related to you, like a sibling, maybe a cousin. So it's nice to come up here and meet people that you're not related to that are also in the faith, that are your age, that have similar experiences, even if they live states away, and you build those friendships that you come back to year after year and they last a lifetime.
Yes, absolutely.
What about you? Why do you come back, Rebecca?
Well, I don't know. I guess basically the same thing as Josh said. I love just being able to see people and be able to interact because it's so different, like over text and video calls or wherever you're doing with anyone, any of your friends. It's just like the interaction is so much more
real.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just you definitely are remembering like your time with people more than just any time like over a device, you know.
Right.
Yeah. It's also like just like a mini feast that you sort of get here. So it's like you go to the feast and see your friends. It's like, okay, I'll see you 2 months later at the Winter Family Weekend for 3 months.
Yes.
Great.
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, I think
guess.
that's our
I think
segment.
yep, I think that's it.
All right. Well, let me grab that microphone and get it off, maybe.
There you are.
All right. Well, thank y'all very much for sharing your thoughts about the Winter Family Weekend. We have a special guest coming up after this. We're going to show you a video that takes place, I think, in India and some other places. And when we get back, we'll have Michael Deering and his daughter will be with us. So we'll take a medium break and be back in just a moment. Hey, we're back. Thank you for hanging in there with us on this special edition of Bring on the Sabbath, or Brought on the Sabbath. The Sabbath is here for a while. Joining me now, I have two special guests. I have Michael Deering. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
And his daughter, Rianne.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure to be here. It's
Yes.
great.
Yeah, Michael, I've known Michael for a few years now. We have a common interest in we're Star Wars
Yes.
fanatics.
Yes, we are.
And I had two choices. I was going to ask him about his ministry that he does, which is a really nice ministry. We're talking about Star Wars. I think this is more important than
On the
Star
Sabbath,
Wars
yes.
on the Sabbath. And I wanted, and you do some really interesting things from what we saw in the video and what you're doing. So how did you end up becoming a missionary to India?
It wasn't my idea.
It wasn't your idea.
No, it was the last thing. I never imagined myself getting involved in doing anything related to mission work. In my church culture, I was basically just, that was left up to professionals.
Yeah. Well, in our church culture here in the Church of God, there's not too many missionaries. I don't think.
Right. And that was something, again, getting called into doing that. And the Joshua generation here, my daughter in 2008, God worked with them first, and they were the ones that were willing to go. It was all young adults that went the first time. So
she went first.
Yeah.
So how was that?
Oh, it was it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. 2008, there was a group of us that went, and we were all young adults at the time. And the guy, Brian was his name, the one who organized it, he wasn't expecting it to be all young adults, but those are the only ones who actually really committed to going and put in the work to go and stuff. And it really changed a lot of our thoughts and ideas and stuff. And so it made it to where, at the time, we didn't feel like we were missionaries. And at the time, we were just going to experience this awesome thing, see other God's people in a different nation and stuff. And it ended up being really a spiritual experience, and they actually ended up helping me.
So these are Church of God?
Yes.
That are in India?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
India.
Yeah, interestingly enough, though, they've never had contact with anybody from the Church of God until they went. These are congregations that our father lifted up, that are Bible-believing, Sabbath and feast-keeping congregations that never had any interaction with the Western Church. So God can work with rocks if he needed to.
So what did you do on that first trip? What was
On the first trip, there was two locations that we went to. One was Chennai, India, and then the other one was Kakinada. And in Kakinada, we worked with widows in Kakinada, and we met the Kampala family, which we absolutely love and still have contact with today. And then there was an orphanage in Chennai that we went to on the second location. And so it was, which they were also Sabbath keeping organization and stuff. And so it was really interesting to see the different cultures of the orphanage and then the widows. And then the widows and orphans over in India are different than the widows and orphans here. So it was it was shocking. It was really shocking, but it was really great in the same sense.
And so that was in 2008.
Yeah.
And so that was your first contact with India.
Yeah, well, no, actually, Brian Smith was on business in 2005.
And who Brian Smith is?
Brian Smith is a person that actually God initially worked with. He was actually working in Bangalore, India. And it was during the Passover, I want to believe, and he wanted to find a place to go. And there was an email correspondence that was happening. I think you talked to Jim O'Brien earlier today. There was Chidi Gampala actually emailed a member of the congregation in Cincinnati asking for help in terms of we need Bible material. We need because they didn't trust the other denominations, Sunday denominations. They wanted something was Sabbatarian oriented. So they were talking to somebody in his congregation, and that's how that relationship began. And then when Brian Smith was over there on business to keep he asked who are these people that keep the Passover? So that's how Brian Smith got in touch with them in 2005, I think. His first organized mission trip was in 2008 when all the young adults went. By the way, that was the hardest thing I ever had to do as a parent. was let my
And
two
how old were
youngest.
you at the time?
I was 15.
15.
Yeah.
Going to a foreign
15,
country.
Yeah.
And Daddy didn't want them
Yeah.
to go. Daddy was
No.
like, no.
I had to argue a lot
did. She
with my
did.
father, unfortunately, but
did.
I had to throw a lot of scripture in his face, and it ended up working.
Yeah,
so.
she's like, Daddy, you said that we're not here for you're here for God's purpose. Why are you standing in His way?
All right, so this started with the teams went
Yes.
with
Brian Smith and his wife Stephanie.
Okay, now so how did Fellowship in Faith begin?
Well, my first trip before that, God ended up dragging me kicking and screaming in 2010 because I didn't want to go. I threw up every excuse in the world why I couldn't go. My business and my career was the last thing that God said took away. It was almost like, okay, what else you got? And God literally had to break me down. If you ever want to get a wrestling match with God, you can do it, and He's going to break you down. It's going to hurt, but the blessings that came as a result of it were amazing. So when I decided to go, I think that's when my spiritual baptism really took place. Okay. It was on that plane because I was shaking like a leaf because I didn't want to go. I don't like to fly. I didn't like anything about India, but that was a turning point in my spiritual life because I had been in church for over 20 years. And when my daughter had come back in 2008, I had two reactions. As a dad, I was so proud of what she did. As a Christian, I was horrifyingly ashamed because she had done more in her short life, 15 years old, of preaching the gospel and serving people that were on the front lines of preaching the gospel to people that had never even heard of the name of Jesus Christ than I ever did in 20 years of sitting and warming a seat at church. So I had those reactions. So God brought those all back to actually get me to go. And so in 2010, if you saw in the video, that was my first time in India with Brian. And that was a complete turnaround in my spiritual life. I was shocked because of the way the culture is. She mentioned widows and orphans and the way they're treated. Women are half a human being until they're married. And if their husband dies and they're a widow, they're blamed for his death. And
they're blamed for his death?
They're blamed for his death. They have two options in India. They can either jump on the funeral pyre and burn with the body of their dead husband, or they have to shave their heads and beg on the streets for the rest of their lives. And all of society will shun them, and they're marked. And if, as a matter of fact, culture is such.
Is that culture, or is it
that's
like the pagan
cultural.
religion?
No, that's
cultural.
the entire culture of India.
Okay.
I watched a woman who was about 60 years old get beaten right in front of me because her shadow touched a man that was sitting on the steps of a temple.
Well, in the Hindu culture, they believe in karma and stuff. So they believe if a widow's shadow touches you, then it's going to bring you bad karma. So it can be religious in the Hindu culture, not just cultural. So it's a fine line between culture and religion over there.
Right.
It's a mixture.
It's it's combined. So it's kind of hard to differentiate the two.
And so the groups that you are like ministering to, they are Church of God. They keep the Sabbath day, the holy days, Passover.
Yes.
So how does and I'm just wondering, how does someone in that culture come to the conclusions of God's word? What kind of process?
Well,
I mean, it may be a more difficult process than here, I would think.
Right.
Absolutely,
Well, very difficult. Again, I went to live there in the slums with our brethren in 2012, from January till June. And that was the hardest thing I ever did. And I didn't stay in a hotel. I stayed there with the brethren in the slums. And I got to experience and see things that, as an American, cultural shocking, the daily life and ministry in India for a Christian, they're persecuted. That's something Americans don't get a grasp of. And we think of persecuted Christians in Syria and Iraq and Muslims. In India, there's radical Hinduism just as virulent as radical Islam is. And as a matter of fact, the current government is issued that they're going to eradicate all Christianity out of India by 2021. So they're beginning programs with the government to send Hindu priests, because India is a theocracy, for lack of a better word. Even though it's a democracy, the government of India and the culture of India operates based on the Hindu religion. So it's very much like Iran, where you have the Ayatollahs that are religious leaders, and then you have the political leaders. India is the same way. You have the Brahmin priests that actually control and run India, and then you have the political caste beneath it. And everything is run through the prism of Hinduism. Everything in India, even the public schooling, everything is run through the prism of Hinduism. Islam is only 13% of the country, and Christianity, all denominations make up less than 2% of the population.
Wow.
And so we're talking infinitesimal part, and of course, churches of God, they don't even register as a blip on there.
Yeah.
But they were originally called out of Hinduism into Christianity from a Pentecostal missionary that was going through India in the late 50s. Their father converted to Christianity, which in India, when you convert from Hinduism to Christianity, it isn't like here where you can get baptized in the ocean or a swimming pool, and it's your new life. In India, they know when they come up out of that water that the life that they had before is gone, because they're going to lose their job, their family's going to throw them out of the house. If they're married, they're going to be divorced, and it's going to be legal to beat them and persecute them and swindle from them. And I got to see that when I was there. Yeah. So it's when you talk about counting the cost, new Christians, new babes in Christ, there are willing to suffer more to follow Jesus Christ than I've ever had to face in my life. So it's sobering, and it's also very inspiring. The things that they're willing to do there in India. So that was an interesting experience living there among the brethren. And ministry is 24/7; it never stops. Because the brethren are sick, you have to lay in the middle of the night. You get woken up. Someone's running a fever. We laid hands on people that had for healing, that had all kinds of diseases, things that were been eradicated here in the States. But leprosy, for example, something I've never seen. All of that exists in India. Yeah. So the prayer requests, as a matter of fact, one of the drawbacks of being a missionary in India, to India from the United States, is when they have health problems and we're here, we feel helpless because you love these brethren. And we just got an email just 20 minutes ago, that Pastor John Gampala from India was just admitted to ICU. Something with his lungs and his heart, and it's hard to. So asking for prayers for Pastor John Gampala, because it's a serious situation for him there.
Definitely, we can put him on our prayer list and
please
pray for Pastor John.
Yes, Wandanamalu for that, yes.
And I guess another question before we begin to wrap up here in a little bit. The outfit that you're wearing.
Yes.
This is not normal Sabbath attire.
No.
So I think there's a story for this, right?
Yeah, in India, this is normal Sabbath attire. I didn't wear the whole thing, but these are what the Gampalas call preaching clothes. Okay. You wear white because you're representing God as part of their culture. And this is a pastoral shawl. So I had the whole congregation lay hands on me when I'm representing. This is like, shawls have significant meaning in India. It's a covering. My wife received a shawl. Rian has received a shawl as missionaries to India. And this is my pastoral shawl. And they asked me, whenever you're giving testimony about us to the brethren in the USA, please make sure, Brother Michael, you are wearing preaching clothes and your shawl. So if I could say something to my brother Chidi, Yesu Kristu namlo miandariki, Shalom, Chidi Babu, Kodaku Prasad, Anna Jan, Amal Ruth, Shalom, Wandanamalu. We miss you.
And what did you say?
Basically, I was said in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I'm loving my younger brother Chidi Gampala, my son Prasad, who adopted me, because I have 3 daughters and no sons, and Anna John, Pastor John, who we just talked about in the hospital, and his wife Ruth, who is a living embodiment of the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yeah. All right. So, if people watching, where can they find out more about?
Oh yes, thank you very much.
Your ministry.
Our ministry, they can go to. We have a webpage, www.fellowshipinfaith.com. And there's a website, there's videos like the one that you played earlier. We talk about each group that we serve there, how they came into the faith. We also have a Facebook group, Fellowship in Faith Ministry. If you're on Facebook, you put in a request for to become part of that, and we'll log you in, and you can keep up to date. Actually, the Facebook group is probably the one that gets the most updated information as it comes in. And continue to pray for the brethren there. One of the things that we do like to encourage is for the churches of God, as you mentioned it earlier, is one of the focuses of our ministry is to get people out of the seats and into the ministry that our Father has prepared, because we're ready. I spent 20 years in the church, and we're ready to be to go out there and serve brethren.
And it really doesn't have to be in a third world country or anything. There's areas in the United States that need help and everything too, as well. So it's just like really getting yourself out there and getting out of your comfort zone. And one of the things is I just went to a seminar, and he mentioned how our body, we're supposed to get out of our comfort zone and, you know, put ourselves out there for God and stuff. And so it's really just doing that and embodying yourself to get out there and do something that you don't like for God. And it's a very powerful thing to do.
So a lot of times to serve is to make a sacrifice.
Yes,
It is.
absolutely.
But you said you were nervous about it. It's
Oh,
just
I was
like
scared to death,
going through this-
but once I did that, again, the church, as persecuted as in India, it's exploding, it's growing. For example, in Passover service, we had 11,500.
Well, how many did you say?
11 at Hebron Orphanage in Palakaloo, where Pastor Sagar Jolly takes care of the orphans. Again, one of the blessings of our ministry is we get to actually fulfill James 1:27 completely. Orphans and widows. The Kapalas take care of the widows. Sagar Jolly at Hebron takes care of 210 orphans. And they are also Sabbatarian peacekeeping. And so for Passover, he's also in charge of 30 different congregations in 4 states. These are persecuted brethren. And because the monsoon is during the fall festivals and the roads get washed out, they can't gather like we do. So their big festival in India is Passover. So it was outside. They had big Klieg lights. So there was 11,500 for Passover. Imagine what that foot washing was like.
So, that's how many feet? 23,000 feet? Or
23,000 feet, yes. But that was amazing. I've never seen so many people for a Passover service at night, and that was amazing. So, and the church is exploding. It's growing. They're a persecuted church, and I've heard it said by many people that persecuted church tends to grow. They don't get complacent. There's a cost that they count.
I would imagine they probably are more on fire than we are in the United States.
It is humbling.
It's very eye-opening. It's very eye-opening and very humbling.
Very
Absolutely.
humbling.
Yeah.
The fact that they're willing to suffer. And even people that are committing to baptism, they know Christ and Him crucified. They know that God is the creator of all things. They have to learn this. And one of the things that's frustrating for me is when the first time I went there, Chitty sat me down in front in a village that had never seen a white man, and he sits all these Hindus in front of me and says, "Okay, now preach." Now, as a person that has a Church of God background, I was stymied because I know how to preach about the Sabbath is on Saturday. I know how to preach about the biblical holy days and against Christmas and Easter. I had no idea at the time I was there, how do I present the truth of the Creator, because they worship the creation in India. How do I share the gospel to Hindus that have never heard of the name of Christ? And I'm thankful that I remembered the Apostle Paul in Athens. And before I went to India, Rand sat down with me and gave me a crash course in Hinduism and what that part of India, exactly what their gods were, what their practices were. And I remembered that. So I put Paul in Athens with her crash course on the Hindu religion, and I was able to actually get me through actually presenting our Creator in heaven and His Son and why we need to come to Him for redemption. And so that was an amazing thing. But I was also angry because in 20 years in the church, I wasn't prepared to preach the gospel like I thought I was. I could preach the Sabbath and the holy days, but I couldn't go to a different country that didn't have the same background. They're not Christians. Yeah. So that was a whole different experience for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Rhiannon,
you're
for
welcome.
being here.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Michael.
Thank you for allowing us
Stick
to-
around. We're going to close up the program after we're going to take a little short break. But thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be back in just a moment to end the program. Y'all come stand behind.
The world we live in today is a calamitous place. Nations surrounded by threatening global conditions are challenging the very stability of many cultures around the world. China and Russia are emerging onto the world stage again, becoming world powers to contend with once more. The Middle East, it too wrestles with civil unrest and regime changes, and yes, even Europe, along with the United States, continue their accelerated decline into financial ruin and cultural confusion. Unquestionably, our days are volatile, leading some to believe that yes, we are indeed living on the eve of destruction. Let us help you to add context, insight, and perspective to the issues facing humanity today. Watch The Armor of God, a contemporary program providing a clearer understanding through the light of biblical prophecy.
Hey, thank you again for joining us on this special edition of Bring on the Sabbath or Brought on the Sabbath or right here in the middle of the Sabbath. We thank you for joining us today. We are now going to let you know we will have a Sabbath service that's going to be broadcast at 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Adrian Davis will be giving the sermon. It's going to be very interesting, so definitely tune back in at that time and join us. And again, we thank everybody who joined us today. Thanks to all the guests and what they shared. We want to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And God bless your Sabbath. God bless your Sabbath. Goodbye.